As an exercise to get the group a little bit more engaged and participating, I have this visual in front of you, and I want you to reflect for a moment. As you think about yourself as a teacher, what sort of role do you associate with? What metaphor are you drawn to when you think about teaching? And your answer might be multiple, depending upon the time and the context and the learner and so forth, but which one of these most resonates with you? So I see a lot of coaches and mentors in the room. Some of these others, it's sort of a fun exercise if you think about this. And when you change your metaphor, it often changes your mindset, doesn't it? It changes your sense of what's possible, and it changes maybe what you attend to and what you don't attend to as you think about different metaphors. I, for example, really resonate with designer, but that's because that's one of my passions. I enjoy teaching and mentoring and coaching learners. But I also have great passion in designing a learning experience in an environment where learners sort of become self-directed, where they feel self-empowered and equipped to kind of learn on their own. After all, from my perspective, the ultimate goal of a teacher is to become less and less important. Not less important, but less and less needed, right? As the learner sort of becomes more competent and confident and empowered, so that I sort of fade away as they sort of step up to the challenges and their capabilities sort of develop. And I would imagine that coaches and mentors, those metaphors, you probably see that same thing. But it doesn't matter where you come from. You can be any one of these. So the first thing I'd like to share, just kind of jumping into this next part, is this idea of a calling. I would argue that that being a teacher is a calling, and that being an online teacher is also a calling. And it's an admirable one, and one that I'd like to commend you for pursuing and being willing to explore with me and to explore with your learners and at Union. A calling is something that can be a little bit life-consuming. It's more than just a job or a paycheck. It's a sense of contributing something, meaning and of value to other people. Some people, I often refer to it as its fundamental purpose is love of neighbor, and as of hospitality to neighbor, and asking the question in any circumstance, who is my neighbor, and how can I most demonstrate a love and a concern and a care for meeting their needs? And that's a really powerful thing to think about, this idea of calling. So I'd like to thank you for the work that you do. Online learning, sometimes people are changing. There's a growing understanding of its value and its significance today. But for many, there's still a little bit of suspicion as people are trying to understand what it's about. And again, some people mistake it as being about technology and not about people, which it is. And so I'd like to commend you for that calling, because here's what I see it as doing. The calling of online teacher empowers learners that would not otherwise have the opportunity, perhaps. Now, being an online teacher is like being a teacher, but it's not exactly the same. I have a list of 9 items, 9 roles of the online teacher that maybe you can resonate with as you look at them. So tour guide would be directing and redirecting the learner's attention toward key concepts and ideas. I have cheerleader, co-learner, learning coach, a group mirror where you provide feedback and meaningful feedback to the learners as a group, so they have a sense of, are we progressing toward the goals that are set before us or that we've established for ourselves? Also, there's that social butterfly in the bottom left-hand corner, getting to know the learners and helping the learners get to know one another, helping to cultivate a sense of community and connectivity. Now, this can happen in those intensive face-to-face sessions that many of you likely have in some of your courses, but it can also happen in pretty significant and powerful ways online. And I've experienced that firsthand over and over and over again. Seymour Papert, who is at MIT, has this idea of the role of a teacher is to create the conditions for invention rather than provide ready-made knowledge. To create spaces where learners can construct knowledge with one another and make sense of knowledge and meaning in their own lives. And the online world gives us some really neat possibilities for doing that. So I'll pose this question. Can you drive? And I'm sure that most of you in this room would say, yes, I can drive reasonably well. I can stay on the road typically. But the question I have to follow up with then is, what can you drive? Because it depends upon what vehicle you're driving. Your skill set depends upon what vehicle you're driving, right? To drive the race car on the right is a completely different skill set than driving the semi on the left, or a traditional car. Or we could pick a number of other vehicles that one might drive. They're driving, and they have wheels, and the idea is to get from one location to another, perhaps, and yet the skills needed are distinct. There are similarities, but they're distinct. I would argue the same thing is true for learning to teach online versus learning to teach face-to-face, and any other sort of mix. We talk about blended learning, which is a combination of online and face-to-face. Those are distinct skill sets. But here's the challenge. I do run into some teachers along the way who think, I'm a good teacher. I've been teaching for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I know what I'm doing. I don't need additional instruction when it comes to the online world. And yet, if you were to be placed in a vehicle as distinct as a semi or a car, most everyone would agree, yep, I could use a little extra help, a little extra guidance, at least direct me to where these different items are. What's different about driving this vehicle compared to driving the ones I've done in the past? And the same thing is true for online. The key is to make sure that we keep relationship, community, and connectivity front and center, and make sure that the technology doesn't take over. In fact, let me give you an illustration. So I've yet to talk to a couple that's trying to work on their marriage and hear them say, you know what, our marriage is going well, but I think we just really need to take it to the next level. We need to have a more high-tech marriage. If only we texted more, we used more technology, then things would be better. Or how about a football coach who comes to their team at the beginning of the year and says, okay team, this year we had a winning schedule last year. We won a lot of games. But this year, our goal is to be the most high-tech team in the world. Well, that's just not a worthwhile aspiration or goal for a marriage or for a football team. Those are not the kinds of goals that people would typically place as critical, as valuable. However, there might be times when a team uses technology or when a couple uses technology to stay connected while one of them has to travel for work or something like that. And that's keeping the relationship, the community, and the connectivity front and center, and letting the technology be a servant to that primary goal and purpose. So, in conclusion with this first part, I argue that the internet is not just about information and technology. It's about relationship, it's about connectivity, and it's about community. And I believe that the effective online teachers of the 21st century make that transition. They don't get as excited about finding the latest tool, although they may get excited about that. What they get most excited about when you prompt them and you ask a few probing questions is they get excited about the fact that this creates new possibilities for relationship, connectivity, and community. It enhances or serves the goal of cultivating a learning community, of building positive mentoring or coaching relationships with your learners. It facilitates the ability for people to experience what we call connected learning,